Welcome to Catacris Magazine. We can be found on the web at www.catacris.com. My name is Jason JROCK Houston. We're speaking with one of the members of 7 Year Witch. We're talking with bassist Spencer Burton. How you doing today, Spencer?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm doing great. And where's the band based out of?
We're based out of Anderson, South Carolina. We're right on the state line, right beside Georgia.
Oh wow, I can hear it in your voice. So, is that where you're born and bred and grew up?
Yep, born and bred in Anderson, South Carolina, and I went to Pendleton High School, which is in Anderson. That's where I met our lead singer, Aaron Langford, and obviously one of the other bandmates is my brother,
Seth
Burton.
And so let me ask you, what's it like to be in a band with your brother? I mean, you got bands like Pantera, Van Halen, the Black Crowes, and some brothers they love and hate each other. What's your experience like?
I love it. I mean, obviously it's extra cool that we're the rhythm section of the band on drums and bass, so I think that gives us an edge there. Spent our whole childhood together, being able to jam, lock in, get our. We were even in marching band together on drumline and stuff like that. So as far as like having the same rhythm, we've got it dialed in.
I mean that's kind of cool because especially like the drums when you go into recording, drums are one of the first things they record. As far as your brother, I guess, being the drummer, and being a rhythm section, that's kind of cool that you guys have that kind of marching band experience because a lot of times the bass players and the drummers. Because of that, you can play various types of music,
Oh, yeah, for sure.
And so let me ask, who's older, you or your brother?
He is older he was born in June of 94, and I'm August of 95.
So yeah, here's a question.
A few months older.
Were you guys both into music at the same time? Did he influence you to get into music, or what's the story there?
We kind of got into it at the same time. We naturally just really gravitated towards playing drums, when we had a snare drum that, while we were in elementary school, we were already starting to learn how to do rolls on the snare drum, teaching ourselves rudiments, trying to get prepared, basically, because the first band class was in middle school, so we were trying to get a head start on everything. We both started on drums.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and then we went through middle school band, high school band, marching band, and then when we got out of high school, when, we decided we wanted to start our own band, like a rock band. Obviously we can't have two drummers in the band. And then as we were going along in our childhood, I kind of picked on the guitar a little bit on the side. So I decided when, we went to start the band, him being older, a little more experienced, he was the better drummer. So I moved to bass guitar at the conception of the band.
That was going to be my next question. Now, I was curious, like, why did you choose becoming a bass guitarist over a regular 6-string guitar player?
Well, I figured with the bass guitar, it's really in its own way. It holds down the rhythm. It's a rhythmic instrument, and when I got my first bass and me and him started jamming together, I just immediately it's easier to lock in when you already basically know what your brother's going to play on drums. You know how to kind of translate that into a bass part where you're playing that same rhythm, but you're locking in, and adding a melody and notes to it. So it kind of just felt more natural being, having all the years of rhythm experience.
Yeah, so here's kind of an obvious question. I mean, the fact that you guys are kind of a rhythm section of the band, but do you think because you have that rock and roll DNA, the same bloodline, the same family, you guys grew up together, is that kind of your experience that you can kind of almost predict what he's going to play before he even plays it, or you guys kind of lock in like that?
In a lot of ways, it just, after so many years of doing it, just comes natural. When our guitar player, anyone will bring a guitar riff to us, and we'll be starting to show off a song or a melody. When I'm hearing a guitar riff for a first time, I can almost, before he even starts playing something on the drums, I almost know what he's going to play. Just so many years,
so
playing on the same drum set and everything.
Who are some of your bass heroes growing up? The guys that influenced you to do what you're doing.
Definitely Cliff Burton.
Oh, wow.
I've been a huge Cliff Burton fan. And Geddy Lee from Rush, Lemmy, obviously. But my favorite bass player is one that is a little more unknown. He was the original bass player for the band Merciful Fate.
Okay.
His name was Tim Grabber.
Okay.
And or his nickname was Tim Grabber because he played a Gibson Grabber bass, and he's the one that actually influenced me to play the bass I do. It's the same bass that he played. But yeah, the original bassist from Merciful Fate.
You know, and what I kind of dig about hearing those influences, I mean, all great players in their own right, but I mean, let's start off with Cliff Burton. I mean, what's amazing about him is if you think about it, his legacy is really just, those 3 Metallica albums, and it's amazing the fact that he died so tragically young. I think he was like 24 when he died. That he's got the huge fan base. He with just 3 albums, he was able to create such a legacy.
Oh yeah, for sure. He had his own particular way that he played the bass guitar that not many people do, because it's difficult the way he plays that. It takes a certain level of skill, and it just had so much personality to it.
Yeah, and it's interesting that Cliff Burton, when you hear other guys talk about him, from Metallica, they're like, we wanted him in our band so bad that, his condition to join the band was to move up to San Francisco, and that's how bad we wanted him in the band. And once he got in the band, he was such a big part of the band's sound that, he had a huge influence on the music. They said a lot of what we did was based around Cliff's bass playing.
Yeah, I mean, people like him, they're a once-in-a-lifetime type of musician. If I saw somebody like that and I wanted, to be in a band with them, if it involved somebody relocating or having to move, that's totally understandable for how unique he was. He was a once-in-a-lifetime musician for sure.
Yeah, I mean, can you imagine being Jason Newsted, who, after all those years, Metallica's got a huge fan base of his own, but I mean, he was always kind of living in the shadow of Cliff, if you know what I mean, and yet at the same time, he was able to kind of, get his own fan base going.
Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of people point out, too, when Jason Newsted stepped in and started recording with Metallica, when they went to get the songs mixed, they basically had the bass guitar so low in the mix.
Yeah.
Sometimes it wasn't even audible, really.
Yeah, that was a controversy with the first album he did, And Justice for All, and then supposedly they went back and re-released it years later with the bass up. I don't know, but kind of amazing. And you also mentioned Geddy Lee, which is kind of an interesting influence because great bass player, but he's a guy that besides being a great bass player, he's a great lead singer, a great keyboard player. He kind of is one of those guys that can do it all.
He's a great multitasker, really.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. When you think about playing bass, having to remember to sing every word, the lyrics and everything, doing all the moves that he does, and doing the keyboards and all that with the pedals, amazing guy.
Oh yeah, he has always been a huge influence, and back, even in my early days before I was huge on playing bass and I was mostly on drums, we also were huge fans of Neil Peart and everything he does. Just that whole band.
Neil Peart, is really an interesting story because he's not even the original Rush drummer, and I say that only because, of course, he was in the band for most of their career, longer than the original drummer ever was, but the influence he had once he came into the band, because he took over the songwriting, and you don't have too many drummers that are involved in the songwriting, and so he just had a huge influence besides just the drum, the songwriting, everything, once he came into that band.
Oh yeah, just I used to watch all kind of Rush, like behind the scenes videos and them doing things, songwriting, all kind of videos that I could find on YouTube and stuff, and all kind of musicians back then. We would just do these deep dives into them and just getting obsessed with these musicians. I remember when we were like around middle school, we used to have VHS tapes of Mike Portnoy from Dream Theater instructional videos, and we put in the VHS tapes. We'd watch drummers like Mike Portnoy, Neil Peart, and all.
And what I loved about Rush is right up until the very end when they decided, Neil Peart had passed and they're no longer going to do it. They were making new music right up until the end, and they were one of those classic bands. They could have lived on the catalog of music they had, but they continued to put out new music right up till the end.
Oh yeah, some bands like there's plenty of bands that I
do
love.
That. Yeah.
I'll use one as an example, Dream Theater. Like they're later on in their career and they're still releasing music, but with, Dream Theater, for instance, I feel like their discography as they've gone on, their last 2 or 3 albums kind of started all sound the same and didn't have any breakthrough moments. But Rush is one of those bands up until the end, everything they were writing, it didn't become stale.
Yeah,
it didn't
exactly.
all feel the same,
They were constantly evolving, even when it wasn't popular, to do so. And they were really true to the heart. And it's interesting hearing your story, Spencer, because if anybody's aware of your band, 7 Year Witch, or has watched a new video for I Want to Love You, probably like me, I'm taken aback that these guys that influenced you were such heavy hitters. I listened to that. I watched a video, and I'm hearing this. I'm thinking, wow, I can't believe a guy that plays in 7 Year Witch is listing Merciful Fate, for example, on his list of bands that influence him. But that just goes to show, you really can't judge a book by its cover, if you know what I mean, because it makes sense that you'd be influenced by all kinds of people,
Oh yeah, if you look at some other bands, popular bands, and listen to some of the musicians that influence them, all the time you'd be surprised how all over the board it is,
Yeah. How would you describe the overall sound of your band? The reason I ask is the only song I've really been able to hear so far is a single for I Want to Love You, and just basing it off that one song, which I don't know how fair that is, but I'm kind of thinking, okay, I don't know that I call them a hard rock or a metal band. There's elements of that. I would say maybe a rock band, a little bit of alternative. How would you describe the overall sound of your band?
At the end of the day, if you didn't want to, get too technical with it, you could just say at the end of the day, we're just a rock and roll band.
That's what I kind of was thinking.
Look at it from a few different perspectives and try to give it some subgenres. The ones that I feel like we could relate the most to is maybe garage rock.
Oh, cool.
Rock, blues punk, and a little bit of throwback rock.
I heard a little bit of rock and a little bit of alternative and hard rock, and I'm like, they're definitely not a metal band, but there's a little something in there for everybody, just basing it on the one song. And what's kind of interesting is I was reading I Want to Love You is a cover by another band, so a lot of times when I hear bands do a cover, especially if I've never heard the original, I want to go back and listen to the original. So I did that. I went on YouTube, and I guess the original artist was Akron, which I would say they're more of an R&B or rap kind of group. And it's kind of interesting because you guys really made this song all your own. I mean, if anybody goes and listens to the original Akron version, it sounds nothing like your version. It almost sounds like 2 completely different songs, but I kind of dig that you guys are kind of able to own this song, if you know what I mean, and make it really your own.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Was that your intention when you guys covered? I mean, let's talk about the decision to cover that. I mean, who came up with that idea, in the band? Or was it the management, somebody at the record label?
That was actually all us. So basically, if you look through some of our social media, our website, social media, you can tell that we always try to just have a little bit of a sense of humor about everything we do. We try not to take ourselves too seriously. We like to have fun, cut up, be funny. But when we were going to choose a song we wanted to cover, because we'd like to, when we play live, throw in maybe one cover. We were trying to think of something that'd be funny and almost be like a perverted song.
Yeah.
So we used to play the song Pony by Genuine, and a bunch of people loved that. And then after we played that for so long and it got really good reception, we were thinking, what's another perverted song that we could bring back? One that's like a throwback that people would remember. Also one that's not rock, and we take something from a different genre and change it over so people will hear it as a rock version for the first time. And because
I'm typically a purist, when bands go to cover a tune, I pretty much believe in staying as true as you can. But I do think in this case, if you would have done a carbon copy, maybe your fans wouldn't have been as into it. So talk a little bit about changing up the arrangement, because again, I think a lot of people will be hearing this song like me for the first time, never even hearing the original, and thinking, hey, this is a cool tune by this new band. But again, you guys give credit where credit is due, and that's cool too. But talk a little bit about changing up the arrangement, because I think you really put your stamp all over it.
Now, when changing the arrangement of it, I don't want to brag on ourselves too much, but what I thought was really cool that Aaron, our lead singer, did is obviously if you go back and listen to the original, it's during the verses in it has a feature from Snoop Dogg, and then Akon has his own verse, and they're basically rapping.
Yeah.
But what Aaron did during the verses is he took some of the lyrics that were already there during their parts, added more melody to them, and stretched them out. So it's like a new melody and a new part on the verses, but he's reusing some of those lyrics that they originally had, but using them in a way where he's singing and not rapping.
Yeah.
That was awesome,
Because I think too. I mean, I don't know, but I dug it the way you guys did it, and I think when I went back and I discovered, oh wait, it was originally rapping in the original version. I'm thinking, I was kind of thinking to myself, if these guys had tried to kind of do a carbon copy and they're doing like a rap in it, that would have been cool. But at the same time, people are like, oh, it's another rock band trying to get some rap cred, or where I think this is more to what you guys do,
Oh yeah, if we would have tried to do the rap version, we probably would have came off looking too goofy. So
yeah. So you made it work for you, and you did it in an authentic way where it doesn't look like also we're trying to kind of have a hit with somebody else's song and kind of just recreate it. So I think you found the happy medium there.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, and that's got to be kind of hard to do. I mean, what's the response you've been getting so far from people in regards to the video?
Well, the whole reason we decided to even record the song in the first place is because we got such good response to playing it live. It was meant to just be a cover we threw in when we played live that was funny, but people kept coming up to us after the show saying, hey, you got to record that, you got to release a version of that. People liked it so much, we thought it would just be a cover we threw in that would be kind of funny, but after getting asked about it so many times, we decided to record it, and we were overdue on putting a music video out with something anyway, so we got with our camera guy and everything to make the music video, put it out, and really good reception about it, and all those people who'd been wanting to hear a recorded version of it after hearing it live so many times finally got what they wanted. Anytime somebody comes up to us and says, oh, we like this song that you play live or this one, and there's like a fan favorite, we're going to record which one the people want to hear. We want to do right by the fans and give them what they want with the songs.
Yeah, and I don't know, another kind of legendary bassist I was kind of curious if he influenced you at all is Glenn Hughes from Deep Purple. Are you at all a fan of what he's done over the years?
Every Deep Purple song that I've ever heard I like, but I've never done like a deep dive on them.
Okay.
Basically, anytime there's just like a band that's a classic rock band or one of the bands that have gone down in history, I'll sit there and I'll listen to every album they've ever done, every song, just do a deep dive on them. And Deep Purple is one that's on my list that I just honestly just hadn't had the chance to get around to the full discography yet. But everything I've heard about them, obviously, I love.
Yeah, because I don't know if you know this, but an interesting Deep Purple kind of fact is I kind of learned this after the fact, like because of my age, I first discovered David Coverdale as the lead singer of Whitesnake, and then I come to find out back in 1973 he was first in Deep Purple, and the album he did with them, there's an album called Burton, where him and Glenn Hughes, their vocals together, just the way they do it, man. And I thought, wow. So that's another guy kind of been around all these years, Coverdale, and it's amazing. It's amazing what Deep Purple has done. Even if you look at Deep Purple, they're one of those bands too that, like you said, great classic rock band. And you hear people say keyboards suck in rock, but they look at all those Deep Purple albums with John Lord and what he did on that Hammond organ.
Oh yeah, if we had another instrument in our band, we've talked about this. Instead of having a second guitar player, if we had to have another member in the band, we'd love to have a keyboard or organ player.
Yeah, and it's amazing. The reason I brought up Deep Purple in the first place, talking about Glenn Hughes, you're talking about picking a great song to cover, and the band he's in now, the Dead Daisies, they always make a point to put a cool cover on their album. The latest cover they did was for an old Humble Pie song called 30 Days in the Hole. The cool thing I loved when I'm hearing their version of a song for the first time, I wasn't even aware of it. It came out originally in the 70s, and then I hear the original version. I'm like, man, thanks for introducing me to such a cool tune,
Yeah.
And I think that's the cool thing about what you guys did too, because a lot of people like me never even heard the original version. It's like, oh wow, this is a pretty cool tune. And so, do you guys have a full-length album? Or are you working on that currently?
So we put out our first full-length album on our own, completely independent, in 2018. since then, we put out a few singles, but our plan right now, basically what we've done is we went to Orlando and we recorded 4 songs at Studio Barbosa. That's the studio owned by Elvis Basquet. He's a pretty notable.
Oh yeah, I think he did the last.
And everything.
Yeah, he did the last.
He just did like the Wolf Van Halen album and the Miles Kennedy album. But yeah, we went down to his place, did 4 songs, and we got those 4 songs together, and we're kind of trying to use those to see if we can use those 4 to gain interest from a label and see if they can help pay, to finish out and make it a full album. So it's kind of up in the air what kind of interest we can get, see if who wants to invest in it, or if we're just going to play live a little more, get some more money up and just pay for it ourselves. And, but, it could go several different ways, but full album is definitely something we're trying to get out this upcoming year.
Here's an interesting thing in watching the video for I Want to Love You. It looks like a pretty professionally shot video. It looks like something you would have seen on, dare I say, MTV Music Television back in the day when they used to play music videos,
Yeah, they need to start doing that. I wish they would.
It's kind of amazing since they stopped, I think I accidentally flipped by MTV the other day. I didn't even know I was on MTV because it's like turned into a reality channel. But in any event, it's kind of cool that even with YouTube and all its restrictions, that I think bands are able to kind of control their output of their music videos, and you get a lot more of a immediate reaction, I think, because back in the day, you weren't necessarily going to get your video on MTV unless, you were on a major label or anything like that.
Yeah, it's great that, you just have the power to release it on the internet, and it's there for literally anyone in the world to see, and, you don't have to count on the television playing it, everybody. You can upload it, and it's there, but then next part comes your job where you have to figure out how to direct people to it and make sure people actually find it, because you could upload a video on YouTube and it get 2 or 3 views if no one knows what to look up. You kind of have to figure out how to market it and, get some hype behind it and get people looking it up and finding it.
It's kind of just and like you said, who's going to promote your stuff better than you? I mean, even some of the interviews I do that I post, it's amazing. Like I did one with a guy in an up and coming band, got like 20K hits, and then a lot of the other stuff that I do doesn't even get that many hits. So you just never know.
Yeah, a lot of it too depends on what social media platform you put it on. Now you have YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. A lot of it has to do with the algorithms of those certain websites. And a way a lot of them work is when you first put it out, the first few hundred people who watch it, if they watch a short little bit, if they watch 10 seconds and flip away, it'll give it a lower ranking. If they watch the whole thing, it'll rank it higher. And then they'll take those rankings and then use those to decide how many people it's going to show it to, if they're going to put it on homepage or recommended videos. And
it's interesting.
Sometimes that's pure luck, if you do good in the algorithm on YouTube or Facebook. But
my thing is too, like Facebook is interesting too, because it's a necessary evil. As much as I love it and stuff, I mean, for example, I'm always trying to promote my stuff, like I said, and it's interesting. I discover bands like you guys, and I reach out to bands and I friend them, try to like their page. Facebook has started sending me messages like, you have liked over 5,000 pages. You need to get rid of some of the pages you like before you can like another page. Like, okay, thank you very much. So they, just stuff like that. They try to get in your way. It's like, why do you even care how many pages I like or dislike?
Yeah, another one of my least favorite things about Facebook is when, let's say, you have 16,000 followers on Facebook. 16,000 people have hit like on your page or followed you. When you post, a picture, a video, or anything, it's not going to show it to the whole 16,000 people. It's only going to show it to a percentage of them, unless you pay to have it for a boost on it or whatever. And it's unfair in a lot of ways, but you kind of just have to learn to do it. Figure the game out, learn how to play it.
And another guy was telling me, the thing that was great about Facebook initially was free, and you could post whatever the hell you wanted, whatever your opinion was. But then the other thing somebody was telling me recently, when especially with all the COVID lockdowns, and a lot of bands were able to get out there and do live shows and stuff, they started. A lot of bands were starting to have these streaming events, And at first it was great, but then Facebook shut that down because well, wait a minute, they're going to use Facebook, then Facebook should get whatever money these bands are making off of our platform. So right away, they're shutting something down that's great. Because in a way, I was loving the fact that if bands can't get out there and play live, they're at least kind of finding a way around that,
Yeah, all the time you can look at. What I like to do is study a bunch of artists, how they navigate through this social media, what their game plans are. You can look at a bunch of different artists and see how they go about promoting their stuff. And a lot of people, what they like to do is try to get together an email list or things of that nature. So, if you go and post on Facebook, if it only shows it to so many people, you got to figure out a way, how am I going to get my music to all the people? Because if I just post on Facebook, it only shows it to a percentage of them. You got to be creative, and you got to have a good wit about yourself to figure out how to work around these social medias, trying to get a cut of the money, or try to,
And so, how involved is everybody in the band with the songwriting? I mean, do you all contribute, or?
We all contribute, but I'd say our main songwriter of the band is Aaron, the lead singer. A majority of the songs, especially here lately, have been songs he's been writing, just quite honestly, because he's just been coming up with left and right, just amazing songs. So, and then and then sometimes he'll bring something to the table, we'll put a spin on it, change some things. But majority of the songs have been from him, probably about 80%, and then the rest of them have kind of, one might be Seth, one might be from Bo, one might be from me, but majority Aaron has been writing most of them.
So how many years has the band been together?
There's a few different ways you could look at that.
I guess
so technically, when we were senior year of high school, me, Seth, and Aaron started playing music together, cycled through a few different guitar players, and we were using the band name Doc Holliday.
Oh, wow.
That started in 2013, so if you look at that as the start of the band, you can say it's 7, 8 years now, but we changed the band name to 7 Year Witch in 2017 or 2018, and then that's when we, registered as an official business and had to begin paying taxes and stuff like that, and taking it, extremely seriously. So if you want to look at it, when we all started playing together, the majority of the band members, you could say 7 to 8 years.
Oh, wow. So, going through a couple lineup changes as far as the guitar players, how hard was that initially to, when the first guy left?
When we went from first guitar player to second guitar player, you kind of have to look and ask around and invite people to audition. But once you get to second or third one, and you've actually gone out and played some shows and been established, and you're a band people want to get in, you have people that are coming to you asking instead of you having to go look. So first time, second time, kind of difficult, but when we originally had to cycle between one or two of these guitar players, there was this band around our age, around the same area, that was performing, and the band name was New Mantra.
Oh, wow.
And same age as us, just super talented. Their guitar player, Bo Anderson, was just amazing. We were all super impressed by him, and we would get him to fill in. When one guitar player would be out, we'd be looking for the next one. We would get him to fill in.
So he already knew the material in a way. That's cool.
Yeah, and so he was filling in, and then finally, when around last year, when his band actually came to an end, when we were looking for a permanent, member to take that spot.
Yeah,
he had been filling in. There you go. He's the new guy.
He fits in perfect. That's pretty cool. Now, there's an obvious question about the band name. You mentioned previously being known as Doc Hollywood. Now, I was curious, when you formed a band as Doc Hollywood, did you know originally that there was a movie from I think it was from 80s or the 90s called Doc Hollywood?
We actually did not know that. So when we were trying to come up with a band name,
how cool is that?
We had a family member of ours who was like a sheriff in South Carolina, and his nickname was Doc Holliday, and that's just what people called him. It was his nickname, based off the movie and the old cowboy and everything. We didn't even know any of that. We just heard that guy's nickname and thought it sounded really catchy.
How cool is that? Wow.
And then later on, we found out, there's a reason he had that nickname. He was nicknamed after the old sheriff cowboy. But no, when we first picked that name, we didn't know the whole history behind that.
And is that part of the reason you had to change the band name? I mean, did somebody make you aware of that, or?
Well, we didn't look back, and there was a band from, I think, the 80s or 90s that used the band name Doc Holliday. They never got huge, but at one point, I believe they did play on, like, Ozfest and stuff, so they were notable.
Yeah. That's interesting. Wow.
And then one night, we were playing in Macon, Georgia, and literally the original band Doc Holliday was also playing in Macon, Georgia, so there was two bands playing in the same town with the same name.
Yeah.
Just thinking about it from a trademark,
yeah.
You need to get the band name trademarked and create an LLC and stuff, and there's, obviously that trademark's going to be taken, so we wanted something a little more original. So when we started trying to, decide it was time to change the name and started trying to think of the new band name, we came up with a list of different names we liked, and we would just go down the list and Google each name and just make sure that there was no other band operating under that name. We'd make sure the website wasn't taken. So when we thought of 7-Year Witch, Googled it, there's no other bands with that name, looked up 7yearwitch.com, it wasn't taken, and that ended up being the one we went with.
I love a name, 7-Year Witch. That was going to be my next question. But just think about that story. I mean, how many bands have that kind of story that your name, you come up with one name and you have no idea that some other band or movie is taking that name? And I mean, especially you think before they had the internet or computers, think how hard you used to have to trademark it and send it to and wait to hear back from the trademark office. I mean, just think how different the world is now.
Yeah, imagine picking a band name back then.
Yeah.
Submitting it for a trademark, and then you hear back a few weeks later, that's actually taken.
Yeah.
You go from there,
And so it's one thing if it's taken by a pretty well established band. You're like, how the hell were we not aware of this band? But like you said, one that not that. Now, how often do you guys play? Have you played much outside of your local area?
So for the first 2 years of the band, we played South Carolina, Georgia, North Carolina, Alabama, Tennessee.
Wow.
First 2-3 years. Then from there, we started going out a little bit more. We'd go as far west as Texas. We'd go up West Virginia and stuff. And then 5 or 6 years into the band, we'll hit New York. One time we've been to Canada about 3 times now, I think. And so we've gone up north as far as Canada, and we've gone as far west as Texas. So we haven't made it to the West Coast yet, but that is potentially happening in June.
Oh, cool.
Don't speak too soon, though.
So, let me ask, when you get outside of, Atlanta, Georgia, and South Carolina, go to Texas or even New York, I mean, do you get a different response, or are they just as much into you?
Well, first thing, you get up there and there's not sweet tea, so it's just
different.
It's no man's land. But when we were in Canada, people are just think it's hilarious that we have southern accents, which I have never seemed to notice. But we have thicker southern accents, and obviously, if there's a band from a different country coming up and playing, that's going to pique people's interest, and get them, even if you're the opener, people are going to want to see what's up, it's always been an edge for us when we've traveled that far up north.
Yeah, interesting. So, I know you're busy today, Spencer, so we'll get ready to wrap it up. Before we do, but I want to ask, got any special plans to ring in the new year or for 2022 that you want to let us in on?
So, New Year's Eve, we're playing at one of our favorite venues in Greenville, South Carolina, the Radio Room. That's how we'll be ringing in the new year. And then starting this new year, we're going to be releasing a song every 6 weeks. In between releasing songs and having music videos, we're going to be putting all kind of content out on Facebook, all our social medias. It's going to be a new year of just all kinds of content for us. We're going to be speeding up. We're going to be putting out as much as we possibly can. So if you're a fan of our band, or if you're just finding us, you have this next year. You have a lot to look forward to, because we're going to be trying to put out as much as we possibly can.
That's cool, and I just want to tell you, Spencer, and let the folks know that they can follow you guys on Facebook. There's a 7 Year Witch Facebook page. I don't know if you have another official page, but I was also going to tell you, Spencer. I was thinking of a name like Spencer Burton. That's not too common of a name, but you'd be surprised when I searched your name on Facebook how many other guys came up with that name.
Yeah, there's like 4 or 5 other Spencer Burtons out there.
Yeah. So that's
I followed one of them on Instagram.
Yeah.
None of them are musicians though.
That's and you can kind of tell by looking. That's what's kind of funny. Is I was thinking, could you imagine like one of your fans trying to follow you and they're following somebody else who's not even in a band or anything? It's like you got to be careful. Really pay attention to what you're looking at.
Because wait, this guy has short hair and he's a basketball player. This is him.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Well, anyway, Spencer. So let's keep in touch. You got my contact info. I got yours now. So maybe when you release the next single, anytime you have anything to promote, we can do this again, because I love to stay in touch with people, and 7 Year Witch seems like a band that I'm really kind of wanting to follow and be into, and I think the more people find out the band, the better. So once we post this interview, feel free to post on any of your sites, and let's keep in touch, okay?
Of course, please do. It was a pleasure speaking with you.
Anytime, my friend, okay? Take care, and Happy New Year.
You too.
Bye-bye.
All right, Happy New Year. Goodbye.
Chaotic Riff Magazine.